Welcome back to another Explainer. Today, we're launching a full-on forensic investigation into what is honestly a silent epidemic sweeping through our living rooms and indoor jungles, and that is root rot. Now, usually we just see the tragic aftermath, right? The wilting leaves, the dropping foliage, those sad collapsed stems. But digging into the research reveals a totally fascinating and kind of terrifying world happening right beneath the soil. So today, we're going to explore the hidden biology of our houseplants to find out what's really going on down there in the dark.
Okay, let's just jump right in and challenge a massive misconception. You've definitely been told that overwatering is the ultimate plant killer. It's pretty much the go-to explanation for every drooping or yellowing leaf you've ever had. But believe it or not, water is merely the accomplice in this botanical murder mystery. The real killer is actually something much more sinister. And understanding the stark difference between what we think is happening and what the biology shows is actually happening, well, it's a total game changer for how you care for your greenery.
So, here's our roadmap for today's diagnosis. We're going to cover the truth about overwatering, the invisible fungal enemy, and spotting the hidden symptoms. Then we'll dive into the surprise underwatering trap, walk through a step-by-step root rescue, and finally, preventing future disasters. Let's get to it. Kicking things off with Section 1, the truth about overwatering, and specifically, the absence of oxygen. Let's see how this builds our understanding on a biological level.
You see, the real villain here is the anaerobic environment. In healthy soil, you've got thousands of tiny, microscopic pockets of air. That is where oxygen lives, and plant roots absolutely need oxygen to function. They use it to perform cellular respiration, move essential nutrients up the stem, the whole shebang. When water lingers in the pot like a guest who won't leave and completely fills all those tiny gaps, it physically pushes out the air. So it's not actually the volume of water you pour from your watering can that causes the harm. It's the duration your plant's roots are forced to sit in this stale, airless state that causes them to literally suffocate.
What really blows my mind here is that water is just the enabler. If you have a nice, chunky soil mix packed with aeration, you can water generously and the excess just freely drains away. Think of it like a giant lung. As the water drains out the bottom, it actually pulls fresh oxygen down into the soil behind it. But heavy, unamended soil, like pure, dense peat moss or that dirt you dug straight up from your yard, it compacts and acts exactly like a sponge. It holds the moisture super tightly, permanently displaces the oxygen, and forces the roots into a stagnant swamp. And this suffocation, that opens the back door for the true biological attackers.
Moving right along to Section 2, the invisible fungal enemy, also known as the opportunistic ambushers. This is where it gets a little sci-fi.
So these pathogens have some incredibly villainous-sounding names, right? Pythium, Phytophthora, Rhizoctonia, Fusarium. They are the ultimate opportunistic ambushers. Most of the time, they're just chillin', completely dormant in your potting mix. They're totally natural, microscopic, soil-borne fungi and water molds. But the very second your pot turns into a waterlogged, oxygen-deprived environment, they wake up. Once your plant's roots are weakened and dying from a lack of oxygen, these fungal infections see an easy, free meal. They strike fast and hard, rapidly multiplying and aggressively decomposing the plant's tissue from the bottom up.
And frankly, it is terrifying how fast this happens. In just 24 to 48 hours of sitting in severely stagnant water, susceptible roots begin to suffocate and die. The onset of widespread decay usually follows within just a few weeks. What that means is the underground damage is often entirely done long before you even see a single drooping leaf on your windowsill. It is literally a race against time beneath the surface. Okay, Section 3, spotting the hidden symptoms, above versus below ground. Since this silent killer operates entirely out of sight, we need to know exactly what warning signs to look for. There's a sharp and honestly pretty confusing contrast here. Above ground, your plant is wilting, even though you can feel the soil is absolutely soaking wet. You'll see yellowing leaves dropping off rapidly, stunted growth, or stems getting mushy right at the soil line. It totally mimics a thirsty plant, which tempts so many of us to add even more water. But below ground, total horror show. Healthy roots have turned black, slimy, and squishy. Anaerobic bacteria are basically having a feast down there, creating a decaying swamp. If you lean in and smell rotting garbage, or a stagnant pond, or sour mildew, yeah, you've got a major problem on your hands.
Physically, the difference is undeniable. If you suspect rot, you kind of just have to get your hands dirty and pull the plant out of its pot. Healthy roots are going to feel firm, plump, and springy, usually white or a light tan. But if you gently tug on a dark brown root and the outer layer slips right off like a wet sock, leaving just a thin, pathetic, stringy core behind, Yep, you have officially confirmed root rot. That slimy outer layer is literally the decomposed plant tissue completely sliding away.
Which brings us to Section 4, the surprise underwatering trap, or the drought to swamp cycle. Get ready for a plot twist, because one of the most shocking ways to trigger root rot actually starts with neglect.
Let's look at how this creates the absolute perfect storm. When you severely underwater a plant for weeks on end, the soil dries out so much it becomes hydrophobic. It literally shrinks back from the edges of the pot and repels water. Meanwhile, the delicate roots become completely dehydrated. They shrivel, they die back, and turn into brittle, useless little straws. Then, feeling guilty, you finally notice the plant is parched and you give it a massive, heavy soaking. The water pools heavily in the pot, but those dead, shriveled roots, they can't drink it up anymore. They are instantly trapped in a swamp, completely defenseless, and they succumb to rapid fungal rot.
All right, deep breath. Section 5, step-by-step root rescue. Time for the surgical procedure. If you've diagnosed rot, do not panic. We can easily replicate a life-saving surgical rescue right at home. Now listen, precision is absolutely vital here. You cannot skip any of these steps. First, unpot the plant and gently wash away all that soggy, infected soil under lukewarm running water. You want to see exactly what you're working with. Second, you must aggressively prune away the decay. Take rubbing alcohol to sterilize your shears and cut out everything that is black, slimy, or hollow. Only firm, healthy roots should remain. Third, disinfect those remaining roots to kill off lingering microscopic spores. And finally, repot the plant in a brand new or fully sterilized pot using entirely fresh, chunky soil. And seriously, never reuse the old dirt. Those fungal spores are still highly active in it.
The good news is you've got a few tools at your disposal for this. But wait, actually, scratch that. Before applying any treatments, do not forget to prune the foliage. You just cut up a bunch of roots, right? The plant simply can't support all its leaves anymore. Trimming a quarter to a third of the leaves reduces immense stress. For disinfection, a simple 15-minute soak in 1 part 3% hydrogen peroxide to 2 parts water will naturally fizz away the bad bacteria. For severe cases, synthetic fungicides chemically target the pathogens. But remarkably, you can also opt for organic biofungicides. These incredible products introduce beneficial colonies of good bacteria that set up shop around the root zone to naturally outcompete and fight off the harmful fungi.
Finally, Section 6, preventing future plant disasters and creating that ideal environment. Treating root rot is an incredibly stressful uphill battle, so let's make sure your indoor jungle never has to go through this again.
So, here is your ultimate defense checklist. Number 1, non-negotiable, pots must have drainage holes. So many gorgeous store-bought decorative pots lack them, and planting directly inside just builds an inescapable swamp. Number 2, amend your soil. Add a generous amount of perlite, pumice, or orchid bark to create those vital air pockets we talked about earlier. Number 3, throw out your strict watering schedules. A plant's thirst changes constantly based on temperature, light, the season, you name it. Instead, check the soil manually. Get your finger in there. Wait for the top 2 inches to completely dry out before you add more water.
And honestly, this quote really hits the nail on the head for this whole explainer. Water is not your enemy. Stagnant airlessness is. The moment we stop blaming water volume and start focusing entirely on soil aeration and providing oxygen, we immediately take back control over the health and longevity of our plants.
I really hope this deep dive empowers you to look closer at your plant's health. The roots are the ultimate foundation, and without a strong foundation, the whole structure collapses. I challenge you to go check your pot's drainage and soil right now. Stop guessing, start investigating, and you'll save yourself and your plants a whole lot of heartache. So I'll leave you with this question. The next time your plant starts wilting, will you blindly reach for the watering can, or will you investigate what's actually happening below the surface? Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and stay curious.